A blind dog, once a loyal companion to his family for 12 years, is now sinking into despair, unable to make sense of the world around him. The family feels helpless as they watch their beloved dog fade away. But what happens when a cat steps into the picture? Could it possibly change the fate of this blind dog? Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. Now, let me tell you the full story. His muzzle had turned white, but his tail never stopped wagging, and his gentle nature made him beloved throughout the neighborhood. However, this past spring, Helen and Anderson noticed Max bumping into furniture more frequently. "Something's not right with Max," Helen told her husband David one evening. They watched as their faithful companion cautiously made his way across the living room, nose almost touching the floor. The vet's diagnosis was devastating. Progressive cataracts in both eyes. "Max is going completely blind, dear," Martin explained gently. "It's not uncommon in older golden retrievers, but the progression is happening quite rapidly in his case." Over the next few weeks, Max's world grew darker. He became hesitant to move around, spending most of his time curled up in his bed by the fireplace. His tail, once constantly in motion, now only offered occasional weak wags. The joy seemed to be draining from their old friend. Helen, a retired school teacher, spent hours researching ways to help blind dogs. She rearranged furniture to create clear paths, put scent markers around the house, and added textured mats to help Max navigate. But still, their once vibrant dog seemed to be fading into depression. "He needs something more than we can give him," Helen said one morning, watching Max refuse to venture into the backyard for his usual morning routine. "He needs a friend who can understand his world in a way we can't." That's when their granddaughter, Olivia, showed them a video of a cat guiding a blind dog at a shelter in another state. The idea seemed far-fetched, but Helen couldn't shake the feeling that this might be exactly what Max needed. "We're going to the shelter," she announced to David today. Little did they know that this decision would not only change Max's life, but would lead to one of the most remarkable animal friendships their small town had ever witnessed. The local shelter was bustling with activity when Helen and David arrived. The cacophony of barking dogs and meowing cats filled the air, but they were there with a specific mission in mind. "A cat for a blind dog?" Rebecca, the shelter manager, raised her eyebrows but then smiled warmly. "Actually, I might have just the right candidate. We have a rather unusual cat that came in last month." Rebecca led them to a quiet corner of the cat room where, perched on a high shelf, sat a striking gray cat with unusual golden eyes, unlike the other cats, who were either sleeping or clamoring for attention. This one was carefully watching everything happening below. "This is Sasha," Rebecca explained. "She's about 3 years old. The interesting thing is, she's been helping our elderly cats find their food bowls and guiding them to the litter boxes. We've never seen anything quite like it." Sasha tilted her head, studying Helen and David with intelligent eyes. When Rebecca reached up to bring her down, Sasha gracefully descended into her arms without protest. "She was found in a nursing home parking lot," Rebecca continued. "We think she might have been a therapy cat because she's incredibly patient and intuitive. Watch this." Rebecca placed Sasha near a blind, elderly cat who was sleeping in the corner. Sasha immediately sat beside the old cat, and when it woke up disoriented, she gently pressed against its side, guiding it toward the water bowl. "That's remarkable," Helen whispered, her eyes welling with tears. But how would she react to a dog? The shelter staff arranged a careful introduction in a quiet room. They brought Max in, his movements hesitant and uncertain in the new space. Sasha, who was already there, watched the old dog with focused attention. What happened next left everyone in the room speechless. Sasha approached Max slowly, making a soft, trilling sound. Max's ears perked up at the unusual noise. Instead of showing fear or aggression, Sasha walked in a figure-8 pattern around Max's legs, letting her body brush against him gently. Max, who had been standing stiffly, began to relax. His tail gave a small wag, the first genuine sign of happiness they'd seen in weeks. Then Sasha did something extraordinary. She walked a few steps away from Max and made another trilling sound. Max turned his head toward the sound, and Sasha repeated it, like she was calling him. Tentatively, Max took a step toward her voice. She's showing him the way," David said in amazement. The first few days of Sasha's arrival at the Anderson home were filled with careful adjustments. Helen and David had prepared everything: a special cat bed, litter box, and climbing posts. But Sasha seemed more interested in Max than any of the new amenities. From the very first night, Sasha established her own routine. She slept not in her plush new bed, but on the edge of Max's large cushion near the fireplace. When Max would stir in the night, uncomfortable or disoriented, Sasha would make her special trilling sound, a gentle reminder that he wasn't alone. The real breakthrough came during breakfast time on the third day. Max had been reluctant to walk to his food bowl since losing his sight, often waiting until someone guided him. But that morning, Helen and David watched in amazement as Sasha orchestrated a remarkable scene. Sasha walked to Max's bowl, tapped it twice with her paw, making a distinct sound, then returned to Max. She brushed against his side and walked a few steps, waited, then repeated the process. Step by step, she led Max to his breakfast. "It's like they're dancing," Helen whispered to David, not wanting to break the spell of the moment. Soon, Sasha had developed a complete system of signals. A soft meow meant step up for the porch stairs. A gentle pat with her paw meant careful obstacle ahead. And her special trill always meant follow me. It's safe. Max's confidence grew daily. With Sasha by his side, he began venturing into the backyard again. She would walk slightly ahead of him, stopping at any changes in the ground, guiding him around flower beds and past the old oak tree. The neighbors couldn't believe the transformation. Where once they had seen a defeated old dog, now they watched Max walking with his head held higher, his tail wagging more frequently. Sasha was always there, his faithful feline companion. Her gray form a constant shadow to his golden one. One afternoon, Mrs. Green from next door came over in tears. "I just watched the most beautiful thing," she told Helen. Max was sleeping in the sun and he started whimpering in his dreams. "That cat of yours, Sasha." She went right over and pressed against his side until he calmed down. Then she groomed his face, just like a mother would do for her pup. But perhaps the most touching moments were the quiet ones. In the evenings, as Helen and David watched TV, they would look down to see Sasha and Max curled up together. The cat's gray form nestled against the dog's golden fur, both peacefully sleeping two souls who had found exactly what they needed in each other. As autumn turned to winter, the Anderson family faced a new challenge. The first snowfall transformed their familiar backyard into an unfamiliar landscape, and Max became disoriented by the changing textures under his paws. One particularly cold morning, Max stood hesitating at the back door, his nose twitching at the strange cold scent of snow. For the first time since Sasha had arrived, he seemed truly afraid to step outside. Sasha, however, had a plan. She ventured out first, her delicate paws making distinct impressions in the fresh snow. Then she returned to Max, shaking the snow from her paws near his nose so he could smell it. Slowly, methodically, she began creating a path for him. "David, come look at this," Helen called from the kitchen window. They watched in amazement as Sasha walked back and forth, packing down the snow in a narrow corridor. She would return to Max every few steps, touching his paw with hers, then leading him forward. "She's making him a safe path," David marveled. "That cat is smarter than most people I know." The winter brought other challenges too. The shorter days meant Max had to go out in the dark more often, and the cold made his old joints stiff. But Sasha adapted to each new challenge with remarkable ingenuity. She learned to push small rugs into place with her nose, creating textured pathways through the house. When Max's arthritis made it hard for him to get up in the morning, she would give him gentle massages with her paws until he felt ready to move. The local veterinarian, Dr. Martin, was so impressed with their partnership that she began documenting their story. "This is more than just a friendship," she told Helen during Max's checkup. "Sasha isn't just guiding Max, she's actively problem-solving to improve his quality of life. It's extraordinary." Word of the unusual pair spread through the small town. People would stop by just to watch Sasha guide Max through his daily routines. She became known as the Seeing Eye Cat, and their story even made it into the local newspaper. But the most magical moment came during the holiday season. The Andersons had worried about putting up their Christmas tree, fearing it would confuse Max's mental map of the house. But Sasha spent an entire afternoon walking Max around the tree, helping him understand this temporary change in his environment. That evening, as the family sat admiring the twinkling lights, Max lay beneath the tree with Sasha curled up beside him. The cat had positioned them perfectly so that the colorful lights cast a warm glow over both of them, creating a living Christmas card that brought tears to Helen's eyes. As winter melted into spring, Max and Sasha's remarkable partnership had unexpected ripple effects throughout their community. The Sunnydale Animal Shelter, inspired by their success, began carefully pairing senior and disabled animals together, creating what they called the Max and Sasha program. One sunny morning, Rebecca from the shelter called Helen with excitement in her voice. "Would you believe it? We've successfully paired 3 elderly cats with younger ones who help guide them around. And we just matched a deaf Great Dane with a small terrier who acts as his ears." But the most significant impact came when the Greenfield Elementary School asked if Max and Sasha could visit. Helen was hesitant at first, worried about how Max would handle a new environment. Sasha, however, seemed to understand the importance of their mission. On the day of their visit, Sasha guided Max through the school halls with extraordinary precision. The children sat in a circle on the floor, watching in wonder as Sasha used her different signals to help Max navigate around them. This, their teacher explained, is what true friendship looks like. It doesn't matter if you're different or if you need help sometimes. Real friends find ways to help each other. A little girl in a wheelchair raised her hand. "Just like my best friend helps me carry my books," she exclaimed, and her classmate beside her beamed with pride. The visit was so successful that it became a monthly event. The school counselor noticed that children who struggled with disabilities or differences began to feel more confident. "If a cat can help a blind dog," one young boy said, "then maybe it's okay that I need help reading." Back at home, Max and Sasha's bond continued to deepen. Sasha had developed an uncanny ability to anticipate Max's needs. She seemed to know when his joints were stiff, spending extra time warming them with her body heat. On stormy nights, when the thunder made Max anxious, she would press closer to him, purring loudly until his trembling stopped. One afternoon, while Max and Sasha were enjoying the spring sunshine in the backyard, Helen overheard 2 neighbors talking over the fence. "You know," one said, "I used to think cats and dogs could never really be friends. And I certainly never thought a cat could be so purposeful in helping others. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?" The other replied, "How many other assumptions we make about who can help whom or who can be friends with whom." Helen smiled, watching as Sasha gently guided Max back toward the porch steps, patiently waiting as he navigated each one. In their own quiet way, this unlikely pair was teaching their community about compassion, adaptation, and the limitless possibilities of friendship. As summer approached, Max was slowing down more noticeably. At 14 years old, his muzzle was now completely white, and despite Sasha's devoted care, age was taking its inevitable toll. Yet Sasha's dedication never wavered. If anything, she became even more attentive. One particularly memorable morning, the Anderson family witnessed something extraordinary. Max seemed to be having difficulty getting up from his bed, his old joints especially stiff. Without hesitation, Sasha ran to Helen, meowing insistently until she followed. Then, the clever cat led her to where they kept Max's arthritis medication. She had learned to recognize when Max needed extra help. "She's not just his eyes anymore," David observed softly. "She's become his voice too." The local veterinary college heard about their story and asked to document their unique relationship for a study on animal bonds and adaptive behaviors. Researchers were amazed by Sasha's extensive vocabulary of signals and her ability to modify them based on Max's changing needs. During one of their observations, they recorded Sasha developing a new signal. When Max seemed confused about which direction to turn, Sasha would use her tail to gently brush his left or right side, indicating which way was safe to move. The researchers called it innovative interspecies communication. As Max's mobility decreased, Sasha adapted their routine. Instead of long walks in the yard, she created smaller adventure zones on the porch, using different textures she would find, like leaves or flower petals, to give Max new sensory experiences. She would bring him small treasures, a fallen feather, a soft leaf, each one carefully placed where he could discover it with his nose. Their story spread further, inspiring a children's book author to write The Cat Who Became Eyes. The book became popular in hospitals and therapy centers, helping children understand that disabilities didn't define anyone, human or animal. One autumn evening, as golden light filled the living room, Helen watched Sasha guiding Max to his favorite spot by the fireplace. Max's steps were slower now, but Sasha matched his pace perfectly, never rushing, never leaving his side. "You know," Helen said to David, her voice thick with emotion, "when we went to the shelter that day, we thought we were finding a guide for Max, but Sasha showed us something far more important. She showed us that love doesn't just help you see, it helps you transform." David nodded, watching as Sasha settled beside Max, her gray form contrasting with his golden fur, just as it had that first day. And she showed us that sometimes the best teachers come in unexpected packages. Max and Sasha's story continued to inspire their community, reminding everyone that the purest forms of love and friendship know no boundaries, not between species, not between abilities, and certainly not between hearts that recognize in each other exactly what they need. As the sun set on another day, Sasha's gentle purr mixed with Max's contented sighs, creating a symphony of companionship that spoke of a love that could bridge any gap, overcome any obstacle, and light the way through any darkness. One peaceful winter morning, Max quietly passed away in his sleep, with Sasha faithfully curled beside him. He had lived 2 remarkable years with his feline guide, far exceeding the veterinarian's expectations for his quality of life after going blind. Sasha had given him not just guidance, but a reason to embrace each new day. In the days that followed, Sasha's grief was palpable. She would sit by Max's empty bed, occasionally making her special trilling sound, the one that had always been just for him. But just as she had taught Max to adapt, Sasha too found her way forward. Helen noticed that Sasha started spending more time by the window, watching the neighborhood. One day she began meowing urgently at the window, refusing to stop until Helen looked outside. There, struggling up the sidewalk, was Mr. Lawson from 3 houses down, recently returned from the hospital after his stroke, using his walker for the first time. Without hesitation, Helen invited him in for tea. Sasha immediately approached him, using the same gentle, patient demeanor she had shown with Max. By the end of the visit, Mr. Lawson was smiling, his first real smile since his stroke. This became a new routine. Sasha seemed to have found a new purpose, helping people in the neighborhood who were struggling with mobility issues or loneliness. The local physical therapy center even invited Sasha to become a therapy cat, where she showed an uncanny ability to know which patients needed encouragement the most. The Max and Sasha program at the shelter continued to grow. A special wing was dedicated to pairing animals with complementary needs and abilities. Above its entrance hung a large photo of Max and Sasha together, with the words, "Love lights the way," inscribed beneath it. On the 1-year anniversary of Max's passing, the Andersons received an unexpected package. It was from a family in another state who had adopted a blind puppy through the Max and Sasha program. Inside was a letter and a photo of their blind puppy being guided by a gray cat, remarkably similar to Sasha. "Your story gave us the courage to believe in possibilities," the letter read. Max and Sasha showed us that sometimes the greatest acts of love come from the most unexpected friendships. Sasha lived out her years continuing to touch lives, both human and animal. She never forgot Max on sunny afternoons. She could often be found napping in his favorite spot by the window, where the light made her fur glow gold, just like his hat. Years later, when people in town spoke of Max and Sasha, they didn't just tell a story about a blind dog and the cat who became his eyes. They told a story about how love can bridge any divide, how compassion can light the darkest path, and how the purest forms of friendship can leave a legacy that continues to guide others long after the original story ends. In the end, Max and Sasha had taught their community that sometimes the most beautiful light comes not from what we can see with our eyes, but from what we can feel in our hearts. The impact of Max and Sasha's story continued to ripple outward in unexpected ways. The local veterinary college established the Max and Sasha Scholarship for students studying animal behavior and therapy. Each year, the scholarship was awarded to students who showed innovative approaches to helping animals with disabilities. The children who had met Max and Sasha during their school visits never forgot their lessons. One of them, Emily Martinez, grew up to become a veterinary technician specializing in rehabilitative care for disabled pets. She often told her patients' families about the blind dog and his feline guide who had inspired her career choice. Sasha's influence on the therapy program led to groundbreaking research in animal-assisted rehabilitation. Medical journals published studies about the Sasha effect, the phenomenon where animals naturally stepping into caregiving roles showed increased cognitive development and emotional intelligence. The Andersons kept a special photo album dedicated to Max and Sasha's journey. Its pages were filled with moments that captured their extraordinary bond. Sasha teaching Max how to navigate the garden after the spring replanting, the pair sharing a sunbeam on Christmas morning, Sasha guiding Max through his last autumn, gently clearing fallen leaves from his path, their final nap together, peaceful and content. After Sasha's passing several years later, the Andersons established a fund at the local shelter called the Guiding Light Fund, which helped cover medical expenses for senior and disabled animals. The fund's motto became Sasha's legacy. Sometimes the best guide is an open heart. Today, in the town's Central Park, there stands a small bronze statue of a golden retriever and a cat walking side by side. Children often stop to run their hands over the smooth metal, and parents tell them the story of Max and Sasha. And so, the story of Max and Sasha comes to a close, but the emotions it leaves behind will never fade. When we look at small creatures like Sasha, we see that love has no boundaries. It is not limited by species, nor by anything else. Max not only regained the light in his eyes, but also found a renewed belief in life thanks to the unexpected friendship of a cat. And we, the ones witnessing this story, have learned a valuable lesson in patience, love, and dedication. Think about those moments in life when we feel tired, hopeless, or as if there's nothing left to hope for. Just like Max, sometimes we need just a small spark, a tender care from someone to rediscover joy and hope. This story has proven that sometimes it is the most unexpected relationships that bring the miracles we never expected. If this story moved you and you want to hear more tales of friendship, patience, and empathy among animals, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button now so you won't miss any future stories that might change the way you view the world around you. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you in the next video.